Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is your daily Baltimore sports podcast. My name is Nathan Stroud, and today we've got a lot of stuff to go over regarding the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, this is the first show or the first episode that we've done since the recap episode. We didn't record an episode yesterday, but we did record one on Monday. Obviously, Monday was the recap episode, going over the entire MLB season for the Orioles, going over the entire Orioles season, the ups, the downs, all that stuff. So after that, we are now officially kind of past the Orioles at this point. Obviously, we're still going to talk about Orioles stuff when topics come up. Obviously, in my mind, the first thing that I can kind of think of is when we go and hire a new manager. We're obviously going to talk about off-season stuff. We're going to talk about potential free agents that I want to sign. But definitely whenever we get our new manager and our new general manager, those are going to be stuff that we're definitely going to talk about here soon. But for right now, it's pretty much just Baltimore Ravens right now. Obviously, the Orioles season's over. We got playoff baseball kicking off right now. Well, kicked off yesterday. Day 2 of the playoffs obviously is today. So it's a very interesting time, obviously. Very interesting time here in the world of Baltimore sports. Obviously, with the Orioles season ending, it is now full gear Baltimore Ravens. And things for the Ravens haven't necessarily been too amazing, obviously, with all the injuries. We're going to get into the injury report from today. They did have their first practice of the week today, leading up into the game, obviously, this Sunday against the Texans. So we do have a practice today that we're going to go over. Big injury report. This is probably the most important injury report of the season. We have some updates on Lamar Jackson. We have some updates on a lot of other guys, and we also have some new guys that joined the injury list that makes it look even worse. So right now with the Ravens, it's not looking too great. We are currently underdogs going into this game against Houston, and we'll go over why in just a second. But before we get into the stuff regarding the Ravens, I do want to kind of shed light on, if you're watching on YouTube and if you're watching on Spotify, things might look a little bit different on Spotify or YouTube or the socials or whatever you're looking at. Things might look a little different. Obviously, we did reveal the new logo for Birds of a Feather. As you can see right here, we have the new logo right here with the Maryland flag in the background with the purple and orange feather in the middle. This feather is actually, obviously, it's half and half. It's half purple, half orange. The purple is the official Ravens color purple, and then the orange is the official Orioles color orange. So thought that was a cool little thing. Like this logo a lot. Definitely could see us doing some really cool things with this logo in the future. And again, this is just kind of the beginning of a transition to a new era, I guess, of this show. Obviously, I started off this podcast on day 1 of, or game 1, opening day of the MLB season. We went through the entire MLB season. We did the thing there. But now that the MLB season's over, I kind of wanted to wait until the season was over till we did the recap before we officially kind of moved into this new era here. Not just for the Ravens, but just in general for the show. As you can see here, every single episode that we're going to open up with, we're going to have this title here. Obviously, the Birds of a Feather font here, your daily Baltimore sports podcast. And we've got the YouTube up here, we've got the X, we've got the Instagram, and we've got the Spotify right here. And the reason why I have these on here, obviously, is to promote it, but there's going to be, obviously, on all of these links here, obviously the YouTube and Spotify is where you're going to listen to the podcast here on the left. And then on the right here is just the socials on X and on Instagram. On X, obviously, I post every single, I post all the time on X, pretty much all these updates, all live updates to things, throughout the day, because these episodes are usually filmed at night because we get all the information throughout the day, and then at night we kind of, go over all the info for that night and that day or whatever, and then post it at night, and then most people see it in the morning of the next day or that night or whatever it is. So, but throughout the day, as info's getting, brought up and stuff like that, throughout today when we were getting updates on Lamar and stuff like that, we did go over it on X and did give my opinions and stuff like that, have conversations, reposting a bunch of stuff, obviously, like every other account does on X. So make sure to follow that. Also make sure to follow the Instagram down here at Birds of Feather Podcast Official. On here I post updates and post every single time I get a new episode out, every single time an episode is out. I go to Instagram first, post it there first every time an episode is out. I do the same thing on X as well, but every time an episode's out, obviously reposting stuff on my story, doing all that stuff as well. So make sure to give that a follow. And it's going to be really cool. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got some really cool stuff coming up. But again, this is just the beginning of a new transition to a new era of this show. So make sure to follow the socials. Make sure to follow make sure to subscribe to the YouTube. Make sure to follow the Spotify as well. It's kind of sound like the end of an episode, me promoting here, but this is what the start of episodes are going to look like. I really hope you guys like this logo here. On the thumbnails and all the other posts, you're going to see a pair of headphones with a orange and purple wings on the side. That's going to be kind of like an alternate logo that we're going to put in the corner of stuff, so that's going to be really cool. But overall, I really do like the direction that this is going in. We got some 3D logos coming up for y'all as well, so some really cool things going on with the show. We've kind of entered a new era of stuff like that. But enough of that. Let's just go over this Ravens news. So going over this Ravens stuff, it's a lot. If you're tuning in on YouTube, you can see it here for yourself. If you're listening on Spotify, obviously we are going to list everything right now. But the injury report for the Ravens this week on Wednesday is looking a little rough. And obviously this is going to be the injury report throughout the week as well. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 players on the injury report right now for the Ravens. You almost have to scroll down to see how many names there are. It is a laughable and comical amount of names that I'm reading right now on this list. It's kind of ridiculous, I'm not going to lie. But at the end of the day, that's just how the season has really gone for the Ravens. And it's one of those things where I can't really sit here and be like too upset and too mad because, again, we're missing like our entire defense. We're missing our best offensive lineman or best tackle. Obviously, our quarterback's hurt right now. There's a coach connectivity with the players problem. There's a big coaching problem with Harbaugh and Orr, as we've already discussed the past couple of episodes. And obviously, there's a big coaching problem on defense, a big head coaching problem, a scheme problem on defense, obviously, an injury problem, an offensive line problem. Just overall, it's not been going well. It's not been going well right now. The Ravens are obviously sitting at 1-3, heading into week 5. The Ravens are sitting at 1-3. Our bye week is in 2 weeks, so we play the Texans this Sunday, and then we play the Rams next Sunday, and then after the Rams game, we head into our bye, and then we play the Bears coming out of our bye. So the next 3 games are going to be tough, and they're going to be especially extremely tough if Lamar Jackson does not play. We're going to go over all that. I do want to talk about Lamar Jackson first here, though. There was a report yesterday that Lamar Jackson did actually sustain an injury. So I remember there was a lot of people, including myself, to be honest with you, that thought that the injury that occurred on Sunday, that was not really, I don't want to say fake, but it wasn't serious. But it seems like this injury actually is pretty serious for Lamar. There was a report yesterday by someone who works at the Baltimore Banner. They were saying how Lamar Jackson could end up missing 2 to 3 weeks with this hamstring injury, and that it's like pretty much guaranteed that he's not going to play this Sunday against the Texans. And obviously the Ravens are in a position right now where they have to win as many games as they possibly can, because again, they're sitting at 1-3 already. Like, they're already off to a bad start, and they really have to kind of get back into the season as quick as they possibly can. But again, this is the worst possible time for like Lamar Jackson to go down, sitting at 1-3. It could be completely different. We could be sitting at 3-1 right now, and Lamar Jackson could be down. And then we have like a couple of games of breathing room, but there's really no breathing room. We're 1-3. It's not looking great, obviously, for this team. But there was a report that Lamar Jackson was going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks with this injury, which obviously would carry into the bye week, and then he'd probably be good to go after the bye. But then there was another report today by Adam Schefter who was saying that they don't really view this injury as a 2 to 3 week thing, that it's more of a week-to-week thing, and that Lamar Jackson is going to try his hardest to play on Sunday. So obviously we understand Lamar Jackson as a player is always going to try and be out there for his team. We know that. We know that he wants to be out there. We know that he wants to play football for this team. We know that he loves football as well. So it's not really a surprise that Lamar Jackson's going to try and push himself to play this Sunday, even if he does have a nagging hamstring injury. In my opinion, I'm just going to be honest, I don't want this to be one of those things where he pushes himself to play Sunday, and then we get to like the middle of the second quarter, and then he re-aggravates the hamstring injury, and then it's worse than it was before, and then he's out for a month and a half or so. You know what I mean? So we just can't rush him. This is one of those players that you just cannot rush right now. But we're kind of in a tough spot though, because we're already 1-3. So you don't want to rush Lamar Jackson because you don't want it to like have any extra effects long term or down the road this season on his hamstring. But at the same time, we are sitting at 1-3, so we could really use him out there. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's just a tough spot. I think that, in my opinion, I don't think that Lamar's going to play. He was a DMP at practice today. But John Harbaugh did say something, and he was at practice, but he was like kind of in the back, like in the workout room, just kind of working out his hamstring. And because again, he's doing everything off camp or off practice to do what he can do to get back. And I know that he wants to play, and I know that he wants to win games, and he understands how important he is to this team. He understands that if he's not out there, then all our chances of winning plummet to the ground. But we'll end up, we'll see what happens. Don't plan on Lamar Jackson. Ian Rappaport was saying that it's in doubt. All I'm going to say is don't plan on Lamar Jackson playing. I think that he's going to be out for this game, but I do think that there is a chance that he can be back for the Rams game. But I think right now they really should just sit him for this game against the Texans, see what happens, because I do think that it is possible to beat the Texans without Lamar Jackson. I think that Cooper Rush and Derrick Henry can hopefully get the job done. But for right now, I would say rest him this week, and then hopefully he can come back next week against the Rams, because when we play the Rams and then obviously we go into the bye, he can rest his hamstring even more on the bye, make sure he's good to go after that, and then hopefully going into the bye, we can be 3-3. We can be 3-3 heading into the bye, and then going into Week 8 against the Bears with a tied record, and then we move on from there. That's like best case scenario right now with the Ravens. But going over the rest of these injuries, because there are a lot of other injuries other than Lamar Jackson. The first one being Chidobe Awuzie. And Chidobe Awuzie, again, there's a lot of names on here that didn't have an injury during the Chiefs game or before the Chiefs game. And there's a lot of new guys on here with new injuries. And those players with new injuries that we didn't really know about are Chidobe Awuzie, Kyle Hamilton, Tyler Linderbaum, and Brent Urban, Devontae Walker. So all of those guys have new injuries that we didn't know about. Like they didn't sustain it during the Chiefs game, or maybe they did, but they weren't taken out. Obviously, the injuries that we know of already are Marlon Humphrey with the calf injury. We already talked about the other day that he's going to be out for probably 2 to 3 weeks. Travis Jones with his knee injury, we know that he's going to be out. Pat Ricard, the calf injury, we know he's out. Roquan Smith, hamstring injury, he's going to be out for probably the same time as Marlon Humphrey. Probably Roquan's going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks as well. Ronnie Stanley, ankle injury, we already knew that. Calvin Noy, hamstring injury, we already knew that. And then the Nate Wiggins elbow injury, we already knew that. And Nate Wiggins is also probably going to be out for a couple weeks as well. So the guys that we know are going to be out for an extended period of time as of right now, Nate Wiggins is going to be out for an extended period of time, probably for 2 to 3 weeks. Same thing with Roquan, same thing with Marlon Humphrey. All three of those guys we know are going to be out for, an extended period of time. But we do have some limit. So it's not all DNPs. There is some limiteds on here as well. For example, Kyle Hamilton's groin injury, he was limited in practice today. Hopefully this isn't anything serious, because if we lose Kyle Hamilton, we are 100% screwed. But there is some good news. There is some good news out of this injury report. We do have someone coming back from the injured reserve, and that's Emory Jones Jr. Emory Jones was put on the IR at the start of the season. Going into the year, we put Emory Jones Jr. on IR. He was a offensive lineman from LSU, someone who played alongside Will Campbell, someone who was a pretty highly doubted prospect. We picked him with our mid-round pick. But Emory Jones, very solid player. Apparently had a good camp from the little that we saw him, but he was injured for most of training camp, and then obviously up until now. But Emory Jones did come back, and he had a shoulder injury. He did come back. was at practice today, but he was limited. Obviously, he's not going to put in a full practice coming off of the IR, but it was really good to see him out there. John Harbaugh said in his press conference that he looked out there, he looked good, and he looked healthy, so that is good to see. And I think Emory Jones could be someone that could really save this offensive line with how Daniel Falele has been playing, with how Andrew Voorhees has been playing. I think that Emory Jones could be someone that really could save this offensive line. And if I was John Harbaugh, I would 100% test out some drives with having Emory Jones in for Daniel Falele, and also maybe Emory Jones in for Andrew Voorhees. Like, kind of, because they said that they view him as a guard and a tackle, so he can kind of flip-flop. Like, he could be a Ronnie Stanley replacement, he can be a guard replacement for Falele or Voorhees, and that's why they drafted him, is because he has a lot of versatility of where you can put him up on the line. He is a tackle at heart, but I'm really interested to see where he could play, if he could play guard, because if he can play guard and if he can plug in for Daniel Falele and just be better than him, because at this point I think I can be better than Daniel Falele, but if he can be a replacement for Falele, then we might be in business with this offensive line. Emory Jones Jr. might just be the answer to this offensive line. He really can help out, but that's obviously if he does work out and if he is good and if he's solid. It doesn't really get much worse than Daniel Falele or Andrew Voorhees, but hopefully Emory Jones Jr. is going to be a step up from that, because that automatically makes the offensive line better, which obviously will make the run game better, which will make the pass game better, which will make everything flow better with the Baltimore Orioles offense. So, not the Orioles, oh my god, the Baltimore Ravens offense. So hopefully Emory Jones Jr. can plug in and do his thing. Hopefully he can be back for this week's game against the Texans. If he's not, I understand, but hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later. He did just come off of IR, so we do got to give him a little bit of time there, like back at practice and stuff. Someone else who was limited was Travis Jones. He didn't play last game against the Chiefs. One of our nose tackles, one of our D tackles that is super important to this team, super important in terms of stopping the run and pass rush. He was limited, so that is good to see that he was limited and not out. So at least he was out there getting some work in, which is nice to see. Tyler Linderbaum, dealing with a calf injury, was limited in today's practice. Tyler Linderbaum, obviously the other best offensive lineman on this team. You have Linderbaum, you have Ronnie Stanley. Those are the two guys. Obviously Roger Rosengarten's pretty good as well. But Linderbaum, one of the best, if not the best center in football right now. He is on the injury report with a calf injury, so he's dealing with something, but at least he was limited in practice today, so it wasn't like a DNP. If it was a DNP, I'd be pretty worried, but at least it was a limited. So hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully he'll be good to go, because if we don't have Tyler Linderbaum and we don't have Ronnie Stanley, we are cooked. I'm not going to lie. I'm not gonna. You might as well not even have an offensive lineman out there. If we don't have Linderbaum or Stanley, we are against Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter. Yeah, we are dead. We are going to be dead. Whoever, Cooper Rush, especially with Cooper Rush, how he can't move, how he's not gonna be able to run like Lamar. It might be cooked there. But hopefully this Tyler Linderbaum injury is not too serious. So he was limited, which gives you some optimistic hope. Pat Ricard still dealing with this calf injury. We're heading into week 5 now. He hasn't even practiced once since the season started. He hasn't practiced once in like almost 2 months, which is kind of crazy. So hopefully he's good. Hopefully this isn't something that's going to be like more weeks. Hopefully he can log in at least a limited practice this week, and hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later, because I do think that Pat Ricard's impact is really showing over these past 4 games. Because Pat Ricard is somebody who you plug in as an extra offensive lineman. He plays fullback, but you plug him in as an extra offensive lineman. And he's somebody that is widely considered one of the best blocking, if not the best blocking fullback in the league. And somebody that just gave Lamar extra protection to, give him time to do what he needs to do. So I do think that not having Pat Ricard for the first 4 games of the year does show. And I really think it does show his value a lot. So hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later. Roquan Smith still dealing with this hamstring injury. He was a DNP in practice today. We understand he's not going to be back soon. He'll be back within 2 to 3, maybe even 4 weeks. We'll see what happens with that. But Ronnie Stanley, he was a DNP in practice today. We understand that he played in the first drive, in the first series of that Chiefs game. He was on the offensive line. He was playing left tackle on that first drive. Things were looking great. and then he kind of like re-aggravated the ankle injury on that first drive, and then we sat him for the rest of the game, and then that's where the offensive line collapsed. Like in the first drive, offensive line looked great. He gets hurt again, we take him out, offensive line looks like garbage the rest of the game. So it's not really a coincidence, like you kind of can put the puzzle pieces together there, but hopefully Ronnie Stanley is good to go for this week. Hopefully he didn't like super re-aggravate this ankle injury, but he was a DMP at practice today, so hopefully he can log in at least a limited practice sometime this week. Again, when it comes to the first day of practices, it's always hard to kind of tell what the rest of the week's going to be. Because most of the time when you have these injuries, it like the first day of practice doesn't really matter too much. It really always is like the last day of practice is what matters the most. So if Ronnie Stanley, like even if he doesn't play tomorrow, if he gets a practice in on Friday and if he gets like a limited practice in on Friday and like questionable for the game, like that Friday practice is what matters a lot. So hopefully Ronnie Stanley's good. Hopefully he can have a limited practice tomorrow. But obviously not good at all. Brent Urban, who we did call up due to all the defensive injuries, we did call him up. He's dealing with a finger injury now. Calvin Noy is limited. He was limited pretty much all of last week in practice, which was kind of good to see him out there because they said that his injury was going to be like 3 to 4 weeks, but he's definitely, I think, ahead of schedule with this hamstring injury. And he was limited today. He was limited all last week. So with how much he's been out there at practice, I do expect to see him out there on Friday, so that would really help out a lot, getting our best, arguably our best edge rusher back. Then Devontae Walker was out with an oblique injury. He didn't really do anything last week, but he was a pretty key contributor in that Browns game and in the Lions game where he had the big downfield catch. It was like a 34-yard catch. But Devontae Walker being out isn't great. Obviously, you want to have as many weapons out there as you possibly can, but hopefully he'll be good. And then Nate Wiggins obviously dealing with that dislocated elbow. He'll be out for a couple weeks. He was in a sling the other day. Also, Chidobe Awuzie dealing with a hamstring injury. He was a DMP. So of all the DMPs today, Chidobe Awuzie didn't practice, Marlon Humphrey didn't practice, Lamar didn't practice, Pat Ricard didn't practice, Roquan didn't practice, Ronnie didn't practice, Devontae didn't practice, and Nate Wiggins didn't practice. All of those guys did not practice. And then guys like Marlon Humphrey and Pat Ricard and Roquan Smith and Nate Wiggins, like we knew those guys were going to be out for an extended period of time, so those aren't surprising. The Lamar one's a little surprising, obviously, because, I guess it's not really anymore if this 2 to 3 week injury thing is true. But again, we know that he's trying to push himself to come back, so the practice reports aren't always going to be completely accurate because apparently he was at the facility today doing some work behind the scenes. So we'll see what Lamar Jackson's status is. Obviously, he's one of the type of guys where he literally couldn't practice the whole week, and he probably would be good to go for a game. But Chidobe Awuzie was a little surprising. That was one that we didn't really know about. Devontae Walker, Ronnie Stanley. That wasn't necessarily surprising, but he did re-aggravate the injury. But to see him not playing again in practice is a little concerning. And then all the limiteds in practice, the guys who did play in practice in a limited fashion, is Kyle Hamilton, Emory Jones, Travis Jones, Tyler Linderbaum, Brent Urban, and Calvin Noy. Hopefully Calvin Noy, Kyle Hamilton, Tyler Linderbaum, hopefully those guys are good. Those are like the key guys here that are limited. And then also potentially Emory Jones Jr. making his debut this week. So that'd be really cool. I think Emory Jones is in a lot better shape than a lot of these other guys, but obviously he's only on here because he just came off of IR. So it's looking a little rough for the Ravens. As you can see here, all of the injuries. There's a lot of reactions, obviously, from a ton of Ravens fans for good reason. I mean, there's a ton of injuries right now, and it's not looking too good, but hopefully things will be good. And we'll definitely have a lot more of a gauge of what's going to happen in terms of the availability this week. We're going to know a lot more when it comes to the practice tomorrow, which we're obviously going to go over tomorrow. So not looking too great, but at the end of the day, there's a lot wrong with this Ravens team right now, and they're going to have to really dig themselves out of a hole. They are playing a good Texans team with obviously a great pass rush and Daniel Hunter and Will Anderson, and then obviously you got Derek Stingley back there, Jalen Petrie. So a pretty good, a very good and very affordable Texans defense. The Texans offense has really struggled this year. They haven't really been on the same page. CJ hasn't really been playing great this year. Nico Collins is, I think, dealing with an injury right now, but he really hasn't been playing amazing either. And the Texans' run game really isn't all there. So the Texans' offense has been struggling this year, but their defense has been really good. But at the same time, if we don't have Lamar out there, that defense is going to feast on our offense, especially with all the injuries to the O-line and also how they've been playing. So with how the offensive line's been playing, plus the injuries, I mean, that defense is going to feast on our offense, and it doesn't matter how. And our defense obviously doesn't have a ton of starters, so it's kind of like by default that the Texans offense will figure it out in some capacity because of the way the scheme works, because Zach Gore still has a job, because of all the injuries. Like, it's a mess right now. I don't want to say it would take a miracle to win this week, but because we still obviously have guys like Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman. Like, we still have a ton of great talent out there on offense, and some great guys on defense like Kyle Hamilton and Malachi Starks, Mike Green, all those guys. So there's still talent out there. The defense is really just going to have to step it up, especially with these guys injured. And then the offense is going to have to find a way to get through. Derrick Henry is going to have a really good day, I think. Derrick Henry's always played good against the Texans in his career, so hopefully he can do it one more time this week against the Texans, because he's going to really have to he might have to really put this offense on his shoulders this week and lead us to victory. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning into and listening to this episode of Birds of a Feather. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow up on Spotify. Also, make sure to click the link in the bio to check out the Twitter and the Instagram. Obviously, all the stuff is right here, so if you need to know any of the names and the @, they're going to be on your screen, obviously. At BOAF official for the YouTube, which obviously if you're on the YouTube, you already know that. Birds of a Feather on Spotify in the podcast section, at BOAF Podcast on Twitter, and then at Birds of a Feather Podcast Official on Instagram. Make sure to give those all a follow. We're going to be dropping some really cool things happening here soon. But obviously, this is just the start of a new transition to a new era of the show. I hope you guys like the logo. I hope you guys like the font. We're definitely going to be upgrading some stuff here over time, but kind of transitioning into a new era here for the show. So hope you guys like it. Again, make sure to follow the socials. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow up on Spotify. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. You have a great day. Go O's, go Ravens, and I'll see you later. Peace out.